ESPN. Did they sail down from Northern California in that?
Probably. Actually, they from Florida.
You know, Kenny Mayne had a lot of exclusives this year. He kind of bonded with the Buccaneer players aboard their pirate ship performing community theater, and he went to Raider Nation and he bonded with all those, you know, really gracious fans there. But for the Super Bowl, other than a Polish language interview with Sebastian Janikowski, Kenny stayed clear of the current players. Instead, Kenny Mayne reflected on a past champion with a great story of courage and dreams unfulfilled.
They are among the greatest players never to have won a Super Bowl ring. Dan Marino, Barry Sanders, Warren Moon, and Charles Barkley.
I would have won several Super Bowls if my teammates didn't suck so bad. But you know what? I did win 5 Grey Cups.
While those without a ring are comfortable with their legacy, there's another ex-player whose lament is profound. For Brett Carolan is the worst player ever to win a Super Bowl ring.
I was terrible. Couldn't catch a pass to save my life. And run blocking? You're talking to the wrong guy.
But you won a ring.
I know.
In 1994, Carolan was a backup tight end for the Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers. He caught 2 balls all season.
One of the catches was for 4 yards. The other one was for 6. If you add those together, that's a first down. And back in those days, guys didn't do this.
Carolan's gridiron futility began long before his days in the NFL.
We always wondered why he was even playing at Washington State. It was like he was there just for the education.
Brett wasn't even that good in high school. Coach is going to cut him. But the principal wanted everybody to be included.
Why did you persist? It seems to say a lot about your character.
As bad as I was at football, I was even worse at basketball and baseball. And soccer, forget about it.
Yet somehow he landed in the NFL and found himself with the 49ers for that special season.
I think we had a nickname for him. What was his name?
Carolan. Brett Carolan.
Yeah, he must have been thinking about somebody else. He wasn't even the 5th option on pass plays. I'd rather throw it to the guard and take the penalty.
Not every player has a starring role, but each is essential. It's been that way for as long as there have been Super Bowls. Joe, even after all these years, do you remember all your Super Bowl teammates, you know, like their family?
No. Well, I mean, I only remember the good players.
Carolan finished his 3-year career with 7 receptions for 61 yards and 1 touchdown from Dan Marino.
Old Danny boy was always yelling at me. He might have been involved in a few more pitch and catch situations, but I'm the one with the bling bling.
Carolan's late father, Reg, also earned a Super Bowl ring as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. Was your father terrible also?
He was a great father.
No, I mean football.
It's strange. He was really good.
Brett Carolan, though, he was a good sport and all that.
He's got the ring.
He's got the ring. And look, fact of the matter is, it's an honor for every player who's ever played in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
In the Super Bowl. Brett, we appreciate the love, dog. Hey, 7 catches for a career? That's like 588 less than Sterling. Let's go to Susie Colbert.
Well, guys, that was obviously touching. But you can't touch the emotion we're sure to see if Tim Brown wins a Super Bowl. He bawled on the bench last weekend just thinking about all he's been through to get here. 15 years of waiting. As you'll see in our jam session, Brown has had his eye on the prize since last September.
Jamal, man, I have never cried, you know, during a football game but I think if I ever got this in my hand, man, and we had won it, I think, you know, there would be some serious tears flowing. You know, I think this is why you play this game. This is why you sacrifice the way you do during the off season and put your life on hold the way you want to live it, you know, and do the things you do during the season is for this.
So, Tim, that was in September. Right. Here we are now, January. You said how you had never cried in a game. What were you doing? What were you doing on the sideline at the end of that AFC Championship
That's why
game?
I hid my face. Nobody would know unless I say. No, it was a very emotional moment, man. You know, so many times I've watched that game being played, and towards the end, you always had this sickening feeling because you know that that team is on their way, and to all of a sudden realize that, you know, I'm going to have that opportunity to play sort of hit me pretty hard.
The silver and black are back.
in the Super Bowl.
We talked about it, too, before, about John Gruden and how he left this organization. You win this Super Bowl Sunday. What do you say to Coach?
He really got this organization back on track, so you know, we would have to say thank you for at least getting us going. Obviously, what Carolan has done is very special for us this year. But I have no animosity towards John, you know. Maybe a couple guys on the team do, but I'll shake his hand, hug him, and tell him he had a great year, and thank you.
What about maybe winning a Super Bowl with Jerry Rice? I mean, he's been here 3 times. This is your first time. What would that be like?
Well, I tell you, you know, just everything that I've accomplished this year, man. You know, 1,000 catch, you know, just, you know, making it this far in my 15 years, whatever. Just having him around, man, has just been very special. I've never really needed, you know, a big brother in this game, you know, but this is like the only time I've been in a situation in football that I've never been in before. Right. So, and it's great to have the guy in the history of the game to be here with you. So it's just been great, man. And, you know, he's talked so much about, you know, helping me to get a ring, not him getting his 4th ring, but helping me to get a ring. And he told me in May, you know, I'm back here this year to help you get a ring. You know, and that's what he told me. So, you know, I was like, yeah, sure, Jerry, you know, but, you know, but he's talked about it day in and day out almost.
You cried at a game. You win the Super Bowl. I mean, what's left for Tim Brown?
Yeah, you know, I think everybody's trying to tell me to retire, you know. If we're fortunate enough to get this thing done this weekend, then I want to come back and try and do it again.
There's no doubt that Brown is the soul of this receiving corps. He made room for Jerry Rice. He's allowed Jerry Porter to grow. But does he have it in him to have the biggest game of his career in the biggest game of his career?
Well, win, lose, or draw, Tim Brown's going to go down as the greatest Raider receiver in the history of the game. There's no question about that. The guy has 1,000 catches, 100, I guess 100 or so touchdowns. But he's not the same explosive receiver that he was young in his career. Now he's kind of relegated to running drive routes, swing, jailbreak screens, and quick outs. I don't know if he ever had that ability to get 15, 16 yards a catch. But yes, he can. Andrew, so he can go in the game, catch 5 or 6 passes, but I don't know if he can get 100 yards in this game here.
Well, how about little brother dropping knowledge like that? Make a big brother, doesn't it? But let me tell you something about the Raider receivers. They are the 2 receivers that make this engine go because they're very crafty veterans. But I want to flip it over to the Tampa Bay defense. This defense is built on scheme. They're not going to allow you to get the big play over the top. And the speed in that scheme allows them to rally on drives, on checkdowns, and on screens. And I want to show you a play from last week's championship game where Jerry Rice goes down the middle of the football field. Tank Williams hits him, ball on the ground. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to try to do much of the same thing that you saw Tank Williams of the Tennessee Titans do to these receivers. They are going to bring it every chance they get and let these guys know that you're 48 years old. You can't do this forever.
Right. And John Lynch hits harder than Tank Williams.
It's just a little bit harder than Tank Williams.
But the one thing I really respect about Tim Brown is his ability to put his ego aside.
Yes.
You know, in the Raiders offense, the slot position is kind of the throne position that had been reserved for Jerry Rice and Tim Brown. But as this season has evolved, Jerry Porter began to play more in the slot, more of the go-to receiver. And the fact that Tim said, hey, it's all about winning, I'll let Jerry go to the slot position.
But let's be realistic. You're talking about guys 37, 40 years old. Yes, if you allow them to run down the field, run their routes unimpeded, don't redirect them on their routes, they'll play till they're 45 years old.
They're already 45.
That will not happen today. Tampa Bay's area of expertise is getting the bumps, routing you where they want you to go, making those hits even before you catch the football.
There have only been 3 Super Bowl MVPs who are wide receivers, and all 3 will be on the field today. Jerry Rice, yes. Raiders assistant coach Fred Biletnikoff,
yes,
and Lynn Swann, ABC sideline reporter. That's just some R.B. Russell Baxter knowledge. We'll be back.
Still to come on Countdown. It's a reunion of 2 future Hall of Famers that just happened to have formed one of the most dangerous passing combinations of all time. You don't want to miss Steve Young's interview with Jerry Rice. And 30 years ago, the Dolphins completed the only perfect season in NFL history. But one player's life became anything but perfect.
I think as low as you can go when you call people from the phone and ask them for $2.
The fall and rise of Marlon Briscoe is next.
The best is yet to come.